Good evening, members of the public. My name is Maureen Carney, and today is March 17, 2025. And this is our St. Patrick's Day edition of the Northampton Housing Authority. We welcome you all. I really appreciate your coming to our meeting tonight. I'll let you know that our meeting is being audio and video recorded for the purposes of collecting our minutes, but also for your viewing purposes after the meeting. Ordinarily, we begin our meeting with public comment, but I want to address that issue first before we start, because you see on your agenda that item is suspended. If someone could please admit Commissioner Tarbutton?
I did.
Okay. And there being a quorum of the meeting tonight, before I start my remarks, I'd ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Carney.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Healy.
Here.
Thank you. Oh, let me admit, Commissioner Tarbutton.
Present.
Thank you. And Commissioner Wood. You're muted.
Hello, everybody. Ben
All right,
Wood.
hello. Thank you. Madam Chair, roll call is set.
Thank you. Thank you. As I was beginning to let people know that ordinarily on our agenda, we begin with LTO comment followed by public comment. And as you see on the agenda tonight, our public comment is suspended. And I do want to address that matter in for just a couple of moments. At our last meeting, now I'm going to ask if the secretary, could you please monitor for the muting purposes, because it seems as though people are very easily unmuting themselves.
Yes.
Could you please change the settings so that people are not unmuting themselves?
Yes.
Thank you. Some of you may know that some time ago, this housing authority received an anonymous letter that was not addressed to us, but they did receive personal information and confidential information of a number of residents at the Northampton Housing Authority. And so that people can understand, even we, members of the board, are never allowed to see personal information about any residents. Unfortunately, some of that information was even widely distributed, even beyond the city limits, and even slipped under the door of housing authority residents in neighboring towns. In my attempt to kind of quell the damage being done to residents in terms of the violation of their personal information being disseminated, I chose at the last meeting to suspend the public comment so that people would not come to this meeting and further damage the interests of those residents. In addition, someone then took advantage of their time in the LTO comments to not speak to this board on LTO-related matters, but instead to challenge the decision of this chair to suspend the public comment and to characterize that as an illegal act and also an example of an open meeting law violation, because how could one person have ever made such a decision without violating open meeting law and discussing that among other members of the board? An assumption that was not true. That decision was entirely a decision made by me, the chair. I did send to that resident a letter, and that letter was also sent to the LTOs and posted at various properties. To clarify, and I do want to apologize because I do understand that people don't realize that while the public is permitted to attend this meeting, an individual cannot just address the public body without the permission of the chair. And although the public participation is entirely within my discretion as the chair, I'll say an individual cannot disrupt our meeting. And at the request of the chair, all members of the public shall remain silent. If after a clear warning a person continues to be disruptive, then the chair may order the person to leave the meeting. If the person does not leave, the chair may authorize a constable or other officer. Now, because we're meeting on Zoom, that isn't the way that this happens. And that isn't something that did happen. But I do want to note that it is entirely within the purview of the chair to determine whether there is public comment and to what extent. For those of you who follow other city meetings, you'll note that our other governmental bodies, the city council at times, from time to time, suspends the public comment. And often that's done for a matter as time permits. So as you've seen when you've looked at the agenda tonight, at our business meeting tonight, we have a serious item of business. We have the annual plan. And this is for the state annual plan that covers all of our state properties. Some of you may know that we operate both state properties and federal properties. You'll see a similar meeting in April when we attend to the matter of the federal annual plan. Tonight, while there are, well, it looks like there are 20 some odd folks who are here tonight, every one of you, everyone who is here tonight will have the opportunity to speak. Although you see that red line that says suspended for public comment, we welcome and we need your public comment on the annual plan. And that will be described. There is a complete procedure for that. The executive director and her team will take up that issue. And we request that you will reserve your comments then tonight, your comments for us, the board, when we take up the matter of the annual plan, which will be presented to you all. And again, I do apologize because I understand that there are people who do not realize that and feel that maybe their own First Amendment rights may have been violated. It's not the case. And I am so disappointed myself to have had to make that decision last meeting and for this meeting. And that's because, as I've said many times in the past, we not only welcome the comments of members of the public, but we rely on the eyes and ears. We rely on hearing firsthand from residents how our policies, how our decisions are impacting you, to whom we really owe safe, healthy, affordable housing, and to whom we're responsible for well-being. It looks like we have a slimmer attendance than usual, which is also a disappointment to me because, and maybe I can chalk that up to the fact we'll hear later when Director Leeper or I'm looking to see, I'm hoping that our other management team is here. Because this will not be the first time that we'll be hearing from members of the public regarding our annual plan. But it's really basically the final in a series of public comment opportunities. So with all that being said, again, I really appreciate your coming tonight and your interest in the Housing Authority. And I guess I'll start then with the first item of business, which is the comments made by officers of the two local tenant organizations that we have presently. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to let Director Leeper correct me. I thought that we had two, Salvo and Forsander, present tonight. But I'll start then with President Al Chagnon from the Salvo Local Tenant Organization. Mr. Chagnon. Could we hear from you, please? And I'm going to ask if you could unmute yourself. And if not, I'm going to ask the secretary to, I will ask Mr. Chagnon to unmute.
Okay, good evening. How are we doing tonight? I'm here to listen to the annual plan. Other than that, I really don't have any other comments at this time.
Thank you so much for your service.
Okay, I don't know if my vice president has any comments, but
Mr. Edwards here?
yes, he's on the other line. I'm out of town right now.
Okay. Mr. Edwards, would you like to offer any comments from the Salvo Local Tenant Organization? But it seems that Mr. Edwards may not be present at the meeting at this time. I'm going to transfer over to the Forsander Local Tenant Organization and then try once again if Mr. Edwards does appear, if that's okay. Al, you okay? Is Mr. Kierdorf here ready to give any LTO comment? Well, you will all have an opportunity again, because as I said, we have a public hearing as part of the agenda. So instead, what I'll do is I'll move directly from that to the next item of business, which is, I'm pretty sure that will be the approval of the, then I'm going to ask, please, to read the next item of the agenda, Madam Secretary.
Yes, we need to hold the public hearing for the actual public hearing for the state annual plan, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
and you should notice too, Madam Secretary, that there is a group in the local tenant organization at Salvo, and that's perhaps where Mr. Edwards is. I'm going to ask actually Mr. Edwards to unmute right now. Mr. Edwards, are you there?
Hello, yes, we are here.
Thank you so much. Mr. Edwards is the vice president of the local tenant organization at Salvo House. Go ahead there, Mr. Edwards. Please.
Well, I'd just like to say that me and Mr. Shagnon are trying to work continuously with the Housing Authority to do better the quality of life, healthy, safety, and the Walter Salvo House, and we appreciate working with you.
Thank you so much, and I see you have a few folks there with you, so thank you all for coming to attend tonight. I'm going to give you another opportunity to speak when I first turn it over to the executive director, to conduct the annual plan, and I'll turn it over to you, Director Leeper, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is the March 17th, 2025 public hearing for the state annual plan. The purpose of this public hearing, which was posted at the State Properties Management Office and the website on January 24th, 2025, so as to provide the public with ample opportunity to review the plans as they were being developed and to make suggestions to allow the Board of Commissioners to hear comments from interested parties about the annual plan. Meetings were also held with LTOs at each state property. Forsanders was held on February 4th, 2025. We met with the Forsander Tenants Association, and the only substantive items brought up were the vent replacements, which are in the current plan for FY26, window replacements, which are also already in the plan in FY28 and 29. Walter Salvo House, we met with on March 11th, and we met with their LTO organization, and the only substantive items brought up were the sliding glass door and window replacements, some sidewalk repairs and tree trimming, and I've applied for a grant to have those items replaced. If we do not get approved for those grants, we would then put them in future plans. The state annual plan is a DHCD template, which consists of the budget, which is previously approved by the board, maintenance policies, and our capital improvement plan. At this time, I'd like to ask the public if there are any public comments, and if you could do so by raising your hand, I shall call on you one at a time. Okay. Commissioner Tarbutton, if you could unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, I'd like to ask Commissioner Tarbutton Because this is the time for public comment, I would like to reserve this time for the public to address commissioners. And I'd like Commissioner Tarbutton to reserve her comments for the commissioner deliberation during this time. And I see that there are 3 more residents, members of the public, to give public comment during the public hearing portion. So I'll defer back to Director Leeper, please.
Thank you. I'll call upon BJ Beats if you would like to unmute yourself, madam.
Thank you very much for letting me have a chance to talk. I live here in Northampton, and I am also a member of Mothers Out Front climate organization. And I was curious about a plan that was submitted and how this would fit into the upcoming plan by Ben Weil about replacing the fan in the Forsander apartments and a few other things that would, over 5 or 6 years, pay for themselves. And this plan was submitted a year ago in March, and I was wondering if anything has been done on that and whether those ideas were included in the annual plan. Thank you.
I will note that we don't answer these questions now, but I think Director Leeper is collecting them all together, and we'll address that in the context of this agenda item. Is that correct, Director Leeper?
Yes, we take the public comments, and if they're substantive, we incorporate them.
I'll leave that to you
in the
then,
upcoming-
Director Leeper.
Thank you.
One quick question. Do you
this-
have a copy of that plan, or shall I?
It's been
email it
on,
to you?
It's
It's
linked
been-
in the agenda.
it's linked in
Great.
the
Thank
agenda,
you
but
so
it's
much.
also on our website, Ms. Beats. But I'm happy to, if you'd like to reach out to me to talk about what's going on at Forsander. We have a lot of stuff going on, a lot of money and grants that we're getting ready to implement there. So if you'd like to reach out to me via email, I'm happy to answer that. Thank you very much for your comment. And so the next person I'd like to call upon is listed as KC. I believe that is Mary Chapman. If you could unmute yourself, that would be great.
I'll ask unmute. Yes, you may please unmute.
Oh, okay, yeah, it didn't want to let, okay, yeah, Mary, I'm at McDonald. And I don't know if y'all remember, I think the first meeting I attended after COVID, I mentioned that there was going to be a loneliness epidemic sure to follow, and was NHA doing anything to be proactive to address it? And same question again. Also, I did take a cursory glance at the plan for whatever year. And are you planning to go on and do this stuff without having completed stuff at other, the other stuff, like you said, the paving at Hampshire Heights? It's the only property I visit, and those potholes will swallow your vehicle. And I don't know if it's steadily being improved or what. And also, as far as disability goes, and I know there's funds for that, I would like to know what would be the process for getting some doors that people with different abilities can open. Those doors are very heavy and very difficult to operate. If you've got mobility issues, if you've got arthritis in your hands, and I would like to know how we can make that happen. Also, I would love to see a tenant organization happen here. However, it's very difficult to get people to sign on for it. So I would love to talk to anyone who's got ideas about making it happen. I think we can do it with 4 people. We can get 4 people together, we can make it happen, but I do need to talk with one of y'all
Okay,
about how to
excuse me,
make it
Ms.
happen.
Chapman, we have to keep the comments to the annual plan. So,
Okay, as far as the annual plan goes, you've still got money for disability stuff. So I would, love to submit a request for some doors that I personally could handle. The annual plan, are you going to continue on with the stuff without having finished the stuff in last year? That's the big question I have.
thank you for your comments, Ms.
Okay.
Chapman.
Sure.
Okay, and I'll move on to the next person in line, which is Gwen Nabad. Ms. Nabad, go ahead and if you could unmute yourself.
I think you're a bit able to unmute yourself, Gwen. Yes, there you go.
Okay. Thank you. And I also want to say that the clarification last month in the meeting in regards to the history of the land at Hampshire Heights was very enlightening, and it was helpful to understand the issues. And so I am just here as a member of the public, really, to comment on questions or, what people are talking about. For one thing, I recognize that Hampshire Heights doesn't have an LTO, but it doesn't mean that there shouldn't be tenant participation. So I think that it's all encompassing, and I think that should definitely happen. In terms of concerns at Hampshire Heights, people are wondering what's going to happen with the windows, if they are going to get the new windows. I know you guys have been working there, and a lot of people are happy to see it happening. But I think residents were moving stuff away from the windows in anticipation of what was going to happen, and they're wondering why the work stopped. So that's one thing that I think is important at Hampshire Heights. And then the other thing is, of course, the water situation.
I'm
you
sorry,
know,
Ms. Nabad, I have to keep the comments, of the public comments strictly
Yep.
to the annual plan.
Okay, so to the annual plan, so in regards to the windows and the water issues at Hampshire Heights. So those would be, capital expenses that I would be thinking about.
Thank you, Ms. Nabad. And if I could go on then to the next in line.
That's the LTO. That's Mr.
Yep,
Edwards and his
I
group.
can see that. I'm calling on the LTO, Walter Salvo LTO, and if there's more than one person, if you could kindly raise your hand, I'm going to ask you to unmute, but if you could kindly raise your hand so that we could do one person at a time, that would be helpful. And again, if you could please remember to keep your comments strictly to the annual plan. And I believe I can see Mr. Whita. If you would like to go first, if you guys could go ahead and unmute, and then Mr. Whita could go first. You're still muted. You're still muted, guys.
I have to ask them to unmute, so hold on one second, please. Yes, you can unmute, Mr. Edwards. Thank you. Director, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
You folks are you're still muted, Mr. Edwards. If there's I'll ask you, there you go.
Okay,
Are we there
can you
now?
hear us now?
There you go. There you go. Now we can hear you.
All
Did I
right.
get that? You're very tiny because the camera's so far away. Did I get that right? Is that Mr. Whita?
Yes,
Yes,
it
it
is.
is.
Okay, there you go. Mr. Whita, go ahead.
But for a couple inches. Okay, we discussed about, you did mention, we discussed about the roof and the eliminating about mini splits in the dining room and in the community room, we also mentioned to go on the budget. And the fob for the back door, to put some speed bumps in and new handicapped spots with the fobs at the back door. We discussed that at our meeting.
We did, but those are items that we're already going to take care of. That's why they're not part of the annual plan.
You have another hand raised, Director Leeper.
Okay, I think that's Miss Torrance.
It is.
Okay, hi, Miss Torrance, go ahead.
Okay, this speaks directly to the annual plan. According to open meeting laws, tenants are supposed to be notified of a meeting for tenants to have input into the annual plan. We were not notified by the LTO to have a meeting for input. I don't call a meeting with two people who are officers a chance for LTO input. It's supposed to be general input from members. We have not had that opportunity. And so I am making a motion that this be postponed until we can have a meeting to involve all the tenants, and that all tenants be duly notified of the meeting, either through robocall or through flyer, so that they can come and participate and give their input as required by law.
Ms. Torrance, I'm sorry, I beg to differ with you. We posted notice on January 24th, 2025 in the newspaper and on our website in regards to the annual plan, and it has been on our website and in available for residents to review since January. So I'm letting you know that you're mistaken in that.
We're not notified by the LTO. We were not notified by the LTO. that
Right,
we
they're not
have
required to,
open-
they're not
It-
required to notify
is
you.
required.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm, the public hearing isn't meant to be a back and forth, so,
Yes, I'll do my best. I'm going to ask you, Mr. Edwards, to please mute the microphone there on your end. Well, actually, before you mute that, I'm going to ask Ms. Torrance, this is your opportunity now, please, to give us any input that you have on the annual plan. In addition to those previous opportunities mentioned by Director Leeper, which has been our practice for many, many years. So now I'm going to ask you to unmute Mr. Edwards. I'm asking you to unmute, and I'm going to ask Ms. Torrance to please provide your input now for the annual plan which you've reviewed and for which I'm sure that you have some opinions regarding what's in the plan, what's not in the plan, or any other things that we may take note of at this moment. Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Chair, we couldn't have, we were having troubles getting it unmuted, so Ms. Torrance thought she was talking to you and she has to start over now.
I'll just ask you to, no, we did hear your comments about your objection to the manner by which members were notified, residents were notified. It's the same manner that's been used for many years. It's the one that is required by the state. And I'm sorry that you're disappointed in your local tenant organization for not notifying you, but that's in addition to what is required by the state. It's not.
May I respond to that, please, Madam Chair? May I respond to that? Respectfully, I would like to say that I don't represent all of the tenants here, so whether I'm disappointed or whether I'm pleased is only one person among many people who live at Salvo House. Secondly, I would like to say that the language in the notice is not easily understood by all of the tenants. The notice is not accessible to people in wheelchairs. It's too high for people in wheelchairs to read it. So it has not been read by people at Salvo House for those two reasons. So it's the responsibility of the LTO to ensure public comment by notifying the tenants and holding an open meeting so that we can all give our input. I am speaking on behalf of all the tenants everywhere. And, you know, I am sure that there's no one who wants to feel that one person or two people or three people can speak for everybody.
Thank you so much for that. I will ask the LTO to please let residents know that while we are taking up the matter of the annual plan tonight, we welcome them to submit any comments in writing.
I moved to postpone. I moved to postpone the vote until we have an open meeting for tenants input.
I understand that you make that motion, but you are not enabled to make motions at this business meeting. It is only in the purview of those commissioners here. So I'm going to defer to any other residents who are meeting. I'm going to actually defer back to Director Lieber and let you go ahead, please.
Okay, are there any other public comments that are to be made at the Walter Salvo LTO table? If you could raise your hand so that I could recognize you. I see none. Okay, and there are any other public comments? Okay, Madam Chair, Commissioner Tarbutton, you had asked to keep her comments to.
Yes, I'm going to ask all
yeah.
commissioners. I'm going to ask all commissioners to reserve our comments for that portion where for commissioner deliberation when we receive a duly recognized motion to approve, and when
Okay.
there is then comment and deliberation among commissioners.
All right, thank you. So-
Also ask Director Leeper, with regards to what we've heard tonight, we can still receive comments from residents and enter those, or am I correct?
So after it's presented to the board and it's voted upon, it's uploaded to the state. So the time to submit public comment in writing or however, in whatever format would have been from January 24th to.
I understand, but if we were to
So if we,
receive public
get
comments,
them, if we
Yeah.
get them tonight before I come in the morning when I would upload it, then I'm happy to include them.
okay, I'll ask then if members of the LTO, if you could circulate that information and just let people know that if there are specific comments that they would like the state to know, this is the state's plan, then please send them to us tonight so that Director Leeper may make sure that the state receives those comments and that they are entered into the record. Thank you.
Do I have the floor back?
Yes, please.
Okay, I will now close the state annual plan public hearing and turn the meeting back over to the chairperson. And note specifically
You're
that there were,
muted. Oh, no, you just weren't speaking.
I'm sorry, I was counting. I have to note that there were 6 public comments. I'll now close the state annual public hearing for the annual plan.
Thank you so much. That item will again appear on our agenda when I ask for a motion from the floor, so that then we commissioners may deliberate and then vote on moving this annual plan forward. Am I correct in noting that the next item of business is the approval of the February 2025 meeting minutes? And I'll ask then, is there a motion to approve the minutes? We have not received any additions, corrections, or deletions from any commissioners as of today. I see a motion made by Commissioner Tarbutton. I'm asking for a motion to approve. If you're not making a motion to approve, please don't raise your hand. That's all I'm asking for.
Motion to approve.
Okay, and may I please have a second? Somebody will need to unmute themselves. I'm sorry. I see a second. I think I'm correct in seeing that
Okay.
Commissioner Healy is wanting to offer a second.
Yes, second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, having this office having received no additions, corrections, or deletions by 3 o'clock this afternoon, as is our practice. So that being said, I think Commissioner Tarbutton is suggesting that she submitted. She's saying she submitted an addition, correction, or deletion to this office by 3 o'clock. Is that correct, Director Leeper?
Thank you for unmuting me. But I did, since you have asked that I not send it directly to you, I did have a comment. It's on page 3 of 6. I wanted to give you the person's name.
Just a minute, please. Just a minute, please. Are you asking for an addition, correction, or deletion at this time because you were unable to send one today?
Plus, because you restricted that, I did want to put a correction here. Yeah, sure. On page
Okay,
3.
then hold on 1 second. We've asked for those to be received by 3 o'clock, but I will allow it tonight. If you will please tell us whether it is an addition, a correction, or a deletion.
I said correction.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Pardon my ears. And what would you like to correct? You said on page 3?
Yes, it says Commissioner Tarbud. I called the office of the state, instead of Diane, I don't know who that is, but when I'm speaking right after Gary DePace, I called the office of the state auditor. Her name is Diane, and I may be saying it wrong. Drizilio, DRI_ZILGO. And I inquired about if that office would audit housing authorities, and I was told that they do, but it usually takes about an hour or so, a year for a thorough investigation. And that's when I learned the difference between an auditor and a fee accountant. We have Gary DePace, but an auditor is somebody.
Commissioner Tarbert, I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
And the reason I'm going to interrupt you is you've had and since last Wednesday to be able to offer this correction in such a way that it could be then, I'm going to have to mute you.
You told me not to email you.
You're muted, Commissioner Carney. Chair Carney, you're muted.
You're still muted.
I understand. So commissioners know that they should submit any additions, corrections, and deletions by 3 o'clock. And the reason that is so that we can confirm the addition, correction, or deletion with the transcript that we have on file from Zoom. And unfortunately, I'm going to ask the commissioner tonight to bring that back up, submit in writing what is your correction in the form of a motion, and that would be written in such a way. I move that the minutes be corrected on page 6 to read blankety blank blank blank. And then we compare the transcript with what is written in your motion so that we can adequately address the issue that you'd like to bring up. As you know, this is our practice. So I'm going to ask you to postpone your discussion on this matter until next business meeting in April, where I'll allow this to come up once again for you to submit a correction to. We're gonna move ahead with the minutes, but if you need to, after the fact, correct the minutes based on the reading of the transcript and on what you say right now, and we've had long discussions about this, then I'll allow that in April, but I won't allow it for tonight because we have no time now to compare what you would like and then for the rest of the board to consider. Okay, so I do apologize, but we're going to have to take this up again in April. And that being said, we already have the motion made to approve and seconded. So I'm going to ask by roll call, and I'll let I will go ahead and unmute anybody who may be unmuted so that they may vote or abstain or object in whichever way that they prefer. And I'll ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Yes, this is approval of the February regular meeting minutes. Chairperson Carney,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Charbutton,
You can unmute, Commissioner Tarbutton. I've asked you to unmute.
No, and I gave you the words to, no, absolutely not. False.
thank you. Commissioner Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Abstain.
thank you.
From what I understand, that's 4 yes, 1 abstain, and 1 no. That motion
Correct.
carries. Thank you all very much. We move right from there into the executive director's report, and I'll hand it right over to Director Leeper, please.
Thank you. All right. This is the executive director's monthly summary for March of 2025. Our GPR was $243,095.95. And we collected 100%. We had annual recertifications. Public housing had 5. Section 8 had 56. Public housing did the 5, and Section 8 did all 56. Wait lists. Federal had 93 one-bedroom applications. 2 bedrooms had 29. 3 bedrooms had 24. 4 bedrooms had 2, and Section 8 had 59. State applicants, the family housing has 27,094 applicants. Elderly disabled, elderly has 2,603. Disabled has 4,505. And move outs in public housing, we had 4. Section 8, we had 7. And move-ins in public housing, we had 1. Section 8, we had 4. Public housing on notice are 0. End of month vacant ready were 8. Vacant unready were 18 for a total of 26. We have 10 pre-leased and we're processing 5 wait lists in Champ. We did 2 make readies, none of which were complete rehabs. We took in 135 new work orders. We started the month with 160 work orders. We completed 241 work orders and we have 54 pending. Follow up from the February meeting. Last meeting, the Force Center LTO asked when the intercom project and ventilation project would be beginning. The intercom project just started the design phase with HLC this month, and the ventilation project is slated to begin in 26, which has been bumped up a year from the original start year of 2027. And they are both listed in our current capital improvement plan. A Salvo resident who misspoke as an LTO representative was promised a response by the chair about last month's suspended public comment. Under direction of the chair, a letter was sent to this resident with a copy sent to the LTOs to address the matter. Update of events. The Northampton Health Department continues to host blood pressure clinics at our sites on a monthly basis with our coordination. During this time, not only do they check the blood pressure, but they also are available to answer any health questions that residents may have. We also encourage residents to stop in and meet the nurse, as the team is a great resource. The foot care nurse continues to collaborate with us and visit the sites to provide low-cost podiatry services to all residents. And as a reminder, we ask anyone interested in foot care to sign up ahead of time to ensure that you'll have a set appointment. For Valentine's Day, we held arts and crafts events for each of our sites, which included DIY crafts, coloring, and writing letters to loved ones. Residents were able to exercise their artistic abilities, socialize with their neighbors, and enjoyed some snacks. We hosted bingo at the senior sites to introduce a beneficial resource to our residents from Trinity Health. Representatives from PACE offered free prizes to winners while providing an informational session to their free insurance for those who qualify. And lastly, to the board, I was able to complete some applications for funding for Forsander and for all of the properties that we look after. For Forsander for mini splits, I'm waiting for the approval for over $4.5 million for mini splits for them, and an additional $380,000 worth of weatherizations improvements for them. In addition to that, about $390,000 worth of weatherization for all of the properties, not only just in Northampton, but Northampton, Hatfield, and East Hampton. The numbers will be more definitive once they come out and do the site inspections, but those things will likely begin within the next 30 days. So when's the executive? Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. Bad debt write-off, we had 22,667 and 36 cents, which for those of you that are new, that amounts to people who either passed away or skipped out, or it's just it's move outs where we are unable to collect, although we may have referred them to a collection agency. For example, $15,631 of this is someone who abandoned the apartment and skipped out. We've referred it to collections, but we're unlikely to recuperate it. And as a result, we write it off, and I report it in the executive director report. And so in January, we had $900. So we're able to write off this larger one as a result of this skip. And, you know, we have referred them to collections. The other ones were for deaths that
Thank
are
you very
not
much,
recoupable.
Director
Thank you.
Leeper, for that report. We appreciate it. And
Thank
that
you.
brings us right up to the main item of business tonight, which is the state annual plan. As we enter into that so that the commissioners can deliberate on this process, first, what I'd like to do is ask for a motion to approve the state annual plan so that we may place it on the floor for discussion. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Moved by
Second.
Commissioner Brooks, seconded Commissioner Healy. It is on the floor for discussion by a show of hands. And to ask folks if they would please indicate their interest in discussing this matter by raising your hand. I want to note that there was a lot of work that was put into this plan, as is usual, by Director Leeper, and also an enormous amount of work by Sharon Kimball. I don't see Sharon here tonight unless she is NHA, but I want to personally say thank you. And I noted that there were many items on the plan that people have been waiting for. While we're waiting for people to think about how they'd like to deliberate on this, I'll ask the director. You heard a number of comments, especially those by Ms. Bates tonight, regarding the work that I know that we've worked a lot with Mr. Weil early on in last year. Would you mind just using this time while we're waiting for folks who might want to discuss whether to approve, just noting some of those items for the general public, and maybe for Mr. Kierdorf, who's here too, regarding specifically the fans and the other intercom and other items that have been brought up in the past.
Yeah, so the intercom system is currently in the design phase with the state. So it's moving right along. And the fan system, we made repairs with a contractor. All but one building was put back online. But the replacement portion thereof is scheduled for next year. The thing is that Mr. Wiles' report, we had already been working with, we already had we have a contract with a company already. And so we were already working on some of the stuff that Ben Weil had suggested. And so we, for example, like I just said, I had signed the paperwork for lien through Guardian for all of Forsander to get mini splits. All of Forsander to also get the weatherization, which will immediately assist with any of the drafting issues. We're also looking at some granting for windows as well. So, you know, this company that Power Options that we already have a contract with is, and Guardian, we're working with them to deal with all of the things that Ben had done that study on.
Thank you. I know that a couple of people also brought up some matters at Hampshire Heights, including the windows and doors especially. I know we addressed this at the last meeting in February, but could you just also remind people that all windows will be replaced, and maybe if you have any sense of time frame, because that was mentioned as well, or how people might better understand where their prospective unit might fall in the long scope of things.
I'm pretty sure that they've completed the window project over there.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I need to check with Pete and see. We haven't done the final walkthrough yet, but I'm pretty sure that that they've all been replaced.
There were also some references to very difficult to open or close doors and accessibility and potholes. I know the road construction piece is a separate matter.
Yeah, the potholes, we've been mitigating as well as we can, because it is a capital project to completely replace all of the roadways there. In addition to all of the drainage issues and the basement, repairs, all of that water mitigation stuff. For those of you that are new, we have millions of dollars going into Hampshire Heights, coming up. The water mitigation and the replacement of driveways being two of them. And so the doors, I believe Ms. Chapman was referring to doors at McDonald House, which is not a state property, it's a federal property. And so Hampshire Heights doors is a family property, not elderly. So I was a little confused on her end of that, but they're not looking at doors for Hampshire Heights. Did I answer your question, Chair Carney?
Well, yeah, it was as best I understood from the comments that I heard. I'm still looking to see if there's anyone on the board who has any deliberation they'd like to offer before then I turn this. Commissioner Tarbutton, anything from your side? From you? I see that you're muted, so I'm asking you to unmute.
Yes, I would have wanted to say that as a public because I'm a tenant, I'm speaking as a tenant, but I'm a commissioner. I don't know why that right was gone.
I'm asking you to participate as a commissioner now, please.
As resident board commissioner, I think that from what I know and trainings that I've been through with Mass Union and communicating with other LHAs, this stuff process is usually 6 months. You get together, it's not a one and done meeting where you come together one time where you can miss a meeting. It's like a individual and a group saying, what do you need? What works best for you? It's a part. Whereas before we didn't have an LTO, but now that we do, is to communicate with residents for their input. And I think we need to put into the factors that a person said about where they are, language, the size of the letters, what it means. I don't think we're there yet because beforehand, these things would get done without this input. So this is a continuation from last year when we first started doing that. I think that if there's too many things here, like washing all the doors here at Savo House, cleaning every one of the doors, regular cleaning of carpets, cleaning the walls, paint. I mean, there's so much stuff that needs to be done that people need to be talking about. The LTO, they meet every 3 months or something. If this plan was coming on, it is to meet regularly and talk to people. And that hasn't happened. So I think that what's been approved is just getting the work done and signing it off, as opposed to getting real input from residents that I can't say about other places. I can only say about what's going on here. So I don't think that that's really, we're not there yet. And we've been doing this for a while, that we should know how to get input from residents about their living conditions, because they complain all the time. And secondly, I always ask for the ED's report. I've never gotten it in 4 years. Chair once even said I would get it. I'd like to see that so I can cross-reference it. Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
muted,
Commissioner
Chair.
Tar. Thank you. Oh, I'm trying to unmute. There's something with my settings. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Commissioner Tarbutton. The ED report is not part of our discussion tonight. You will see a synopsis of the ED's report in the minutes for this meeting. I do see Commissioner Wood has his hand raised. Commissioner Wood, please.
Thank you. Taking a moment there to unmute. Hi, everybody. New Commissioner Ben Wood, Florence resident. I'm actually just curious a little bit, just to have a sense of what happens next. So if we vote to approve the state plan, just what is the process from there on out? What happens with the plan? What is the timing of actual investments? Can you just give me a good sense of process of what happens from this point forward?
Thank you, Commissioner. That's through me. And to the director for that question, please.
Yes, so once I read the resolution and the board votes on it, I go in tomorrow and I upload the comments, the LTO comments. And once it's sent through to the state, they then fund the plan. And once the plan is funded, it goes over the 5 years. And how it works is they assign fish numbers, which is financial, hold on a second, I'm going to tell you. I know you're going to ask me what the acronym stands for, so I'm going to look it up. They assign fish numbers to them. And once a fish number is assigned, it kind of stays in the plan until the fish is assigned. And then it goes into a design phase. And then once it goes into the design phase, and this is all their money, it's all their, if it's over $10,000, they handle the project. Because we're a large housing authority, they hire the architects, the designers, they pick everything. I just have to bring it to the board, and the board has to vote on it, even though it's their money. And FISH stands for Financial Information Systems for Housing, but it has to do with the construction projects. And then once it's assigned FISH and it kind of goes to that design phase, it then begins a process. Sometimes that can take a long time. It depends on them. But we're required to do the annual plan every year, and in it, 1 year the last year falls off and it moves up one. That's how it works.
Does that make sense, Commissioner Wood?
Did I answer your question well enough, Commissioner Wood?
I do want to note too, I'm going to ask Commissioner Wood again to unmute, because I told Commissioner Wood I would give him a couple of minutes. And if commissioners would grant me this opportunity to it'll also let you think a little bit what you might want to offer in terms of deliberation. I want to turn it back over to Commissioner Wood, who is the newest commissioner on our board, just to let him introduce himself to the public, say hello, and also to other commissioners who may not have had a chance to meet Commissioner Wood or remember him when he was our health director some time back when I was on the city council. To you, Commissioner Wood, please.
Thank you, Chair Carney. Actually, I do have a little follow-up for you, Kara. just to understand how the state is judging the information that we're putting forward to them in the state plan. So if you could just elaborate on that, that'd be great. But just really quick, I'll be very, very brief. Ben Wood, again, I live in Florence, the Bay State area. Me and my family, kids went to the public schools here. I've been a resident since 2003 in Northampton. And have a good deal of experience working with the Northampton Housing Authority when I was the health department director from 2009 to 2012. So I spent a lot of time actually inside of Northampton Housing Authority buildings and building relationship both with Housing Authority staff at that time and with residents. And my wife, I'm happy to say, has done a lot of food access related work with the Northern Housing Authority as well. And just really pleased to be here. It's a critical component of our community to ensure that these places are sound, safe, and good places to live.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining the board. And for folks who may have missed last month, we have two new board members right now. We have Commissioner Healy and Commissioner Wood, and both actually have some public health and other expertise, which we really value in terms of their ability to add value to this board. I'm going to ask if there is any comment at all from Commissioner Brooks and then from Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Brooks.
No, I think I'm okay. I think that I want to welcome Patty and Ben to the board, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Anything from you, Commissioner Jones? I've asked you to unmute if you have anything to say.
No, I'm fine. I read the plan through twice, and the public comments and what's done with those kind of speak for themselves. So having done this before, I'm comfortable with it this time around. I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. And just so that folks know, the director made reference to the fact that it's a long capital plan in terms of it being a 5-year plan. But what that means is that each year when this comes around, it does mean a jockeying of some things. If you think of it, for those in the health field, it's almost like a triage. I mean, if it turns out that we have had a 5-year plan, but then something comes along that then is going to supersede other needs, we need to be flexible. And that's why we're thinking ahead all the time in the sense of it being 5 years. But in fact, from what I understand, some of the work that's slated to begin at Forsander is going to begin a year earlier based on some of our projections and doing the work. Could you elaborate on that, please, Director Leeper, please?
Yes, and another example of that is that we had originally slated funding for one project, but then we had an emergency happen wherein the heating system, the boilers went down at Cahill. And so it was an emergency situation. We had to pull the funds that were meant for every other project to essentially take care of the issues for the Cahill boilers. And so although that put off all the projects that were funded for not just 1 year, but it was 2 years, we had to address that. And so then what happens is the next time the annual plan happens, we have to reevaluate and relook at everything. And so with regards to Forsander, when you know it's a pool of money that you get every year, and when you get the pool of money, you have to see, okay, what are the needs of the properties, and you know, how can we, you know, you have $10 million worth of capital needs that need to be done based on the needs assessment, and you only have $5 million. Okay, what can we do with what we have? And so you just kind of have to try to prioritize what you can, and then try to get grants for everything else.
Thank you, Director. I'm going to ask one more time then Commissioner Healy or Commissioner Tarbutton. Commissioner Tarbutton, I know you've spoken primarily to the process issue, and we appreciate that. But is there anything specifically in the plan that you noted and that you'd like to offer some deliberation on before we moved to a vote?
No, I did want to, I said what I said. I just wanted to say to Ben Woods and is it Patricia Healy. Sorry, I would like to have coffee with you guys. And thanks for introducing yourself. I did see Commissioner Woods. I did go to I think your housing partnership. I did see that with the confirmation. So I didn't get to do that for Healy. I actually thought she was related to the governor. So I would like to get to know you, and I would please ask that you get to know me, probably not by what you hear about me, because I'm much nicer than probably is presented. Thank you.
And even nicer than that. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
So I hate to have to move us all the way so quickly to a vote, but if no one else has any other comment, I think that I'm obliged. Oh, yes, Director Leeper, I'll take your comment, please.
Yes, I just want to remind you, Madam Chair, that I need to read the resolution.
Yes, then would you read the whole resolution? So then I'll give people one more opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is resolution number 202501, adopting 2026 state annual plan and the related policies and certifications. Whereas the Northampton Housing Authority operates a public housing program and funded in part by the Department of Housing and Community Development, EOHLC, and whereas the Northampton Housing Authority has prepared an annual plan in compliance with 760 CMR 4.16, and whereas the EOHLC requirements for adoption by the Board of Commissioners include certification of various forms. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Northampton Housing Authority adopts the 2026 state annual plan and amendments, and further, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Northampton Housing Authority hereby authorizes and directs its executive director to sign on behalf of the authority the certifications. Further, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Northampton Housing Authority, in adopting the state annual plan, reserves the severability of the remaining segments of plans and policies of any portion of the plans and policies not approved by EOHLC.
Thank you very much, Director. And that resolution has been moved and seconded. I'll ask one more time if there are any further comments. And seeing none, I'll go ahead and ask the Secretary to call the roll, please.
Yes, thank you. Resolution 2025-1, approval of the state annual plan 2026. Chairperson Carney.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones. Yes, you could go ahead and cast your vote, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Tarbutton.
I'll ask Commissioner Tarbutton again, please, to unmute.
Thank you for unmuting me. No tenant involvement. That's the core of that. Without it, no.
Thank you, Commissioner Tarbutton. Commissioner Healy.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Madam Chair, well, that's 5 yeas and 1 nay.
Thank you very much. Then that motion is approved. And I don't think that there's anything further. I'm just going to give you could correct me if I'm wrong. But am I correct that that brings us, unfortunately, to the end of our agenda?
One final motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, then I will ask from the board, is there one final motion that is non-debatable? So if you would offer, please, a final motion. I see somebody anxious to offer a motion there, who could unmute themselves. Commissioner Jones, would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
That's a non-debatable motion. I'll ask those in favor of adjournment to please vocally just call out their aye. And if I don't hear 6 ayes, then we're here straight through till next April.
Aye.
Aye.
1 month. Okay, so we'll see you in April. We'll do this again for the federal plan, which includes the properties at McDonald House and at Florence Heights. I really appreciate everyone who came. Oh, wait a minute, you didn't get to, we did hear. I want to hear Commissioner Tarbutton's vote on the motion to adjourn. Yes, please, Commissioner, did you vote to adjourn?
No, I'd like to have my voice. No, we got a mammoth in the room we're not dealing with, so no, we got business to deal with.
I understand, but you're defeated. We are adjourned. So you'll be again able to offer that motion that we all sit here for another month in April. So I really appreciate everyone who took the time to come, and we really appreciate and depend on your interest in the Housing Authority. Come again in April, please. Thank you.
Okay, stop the recording.